Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, and I have with you the most amazing person, Paula Burt. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you. Thank you. Super happy to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. I just absolutely love chatting with you, especially about the book Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so today you're going to be talking about the handless maiden and skeleton woman. With the handless maiden, I absolutely love because it's a great review of the book in my mind, for me at least, and because it talks about the different stages of initiation that we go through, or our female psyche goes through, and it even shows the story of the male psyche and how important it is that they go through their own journey in the underworld, if you will. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Yep.
Yeah. And then I get such a kick out of Skeleton Woman because that's where the guy's out fishing and he pulls up, this skeleton of a woman, and he gets entangled, and he gets on a boat, and it's like she's going boom, 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 and like she's down, and it's how we, fall in love and then go, like there's like things to be afraid of, right? And,
oh no, my skeleton's following me.
So funny. Yeah, right? And you try to like run from love sometimes. It's like, nope. Okie dokie. Let's keep going. So the time is now for transformation. There's a lot of transformation in both of those stories. What is your idea of transformation?
So I think it's a lot of people, another terminology is like the awakening process, if you will. And within the stories, it's like you can find pieces of you that relate. Yeah. So then it just kind of mirrors the effect within. So then it's like, okay, what pieces of me is like feeling resonated to this, and how is this playing into my life? And how can I take this information and shift it into something like that I want to create at a different level?
Yeah, I like that. Great definition. And so in order to transform, one must be ready to receive. And even,
correct.
Even in a good relationship, a good relationship is built on good communication. And even in communication, this is the teachings of Stina Marie. I absolutely love her teachings on, good sex is about penetration and receiving, right? Receiving penetration. And that's a good conversation where you're, offering something up and the other person receives it and then kind of processes it, maybe even out loud with you, it just comes back, and it's just a volley of back and forth. So being open to receive is like super important.
Yes. To humans. That's what I was going to say. I think in relationship, and also if there's views who aren't in relationships too, like it's still being open to receive from everything around you as well. So once those walls get kind of, relaxed down and the openness comes into play is where a lot of transformation actually happens. And
I think you can get over that hump of like running from love by admitting that you're having those feelings and walking them through with the person you're running from, right? Just get honest and just to get to the center and process through it together. And developmentally, that's something that most people have a super difficult time doing. Instead of reacting to things, just putting things in the center. Everybody is like free to take a look at it and what does it mean for them. And so it's not about being afraid to speak your truth, right? And then truth gets discussed. And if there's been any kind of trauma in anybody's like upbringing or maybe abuse or whatever, even in a marriage situation that they've left or something, that one gets gnarly. That gets difficult to just be honest, speak your truth, and wait to see how the other processes through it without reacting. It's like so important.
It is so important. And it's practice. Like that's something I noticed in my own life anyways. It's literally like practice being in integrity with your word. And at first it is really, really scary, which is, it's okay to cry, right? Like, cause sometimes even being with integrity with our word creates like this internal, like what do I do with this? And allowing those emotions to bubble up and come out, so that way you can just come back to what is in alignment and integrity for you.
Yeah, I love it. And crying, you're so exhausted after you cry, and it's like, well, you know, when you're crying sad tears, and it's like, why? And it's like, because you're releasing all kinds of toxins into your system, and then you drink water, and like my mom would always, my brother would cry, and she was like, a sip of water. You know, it was cool how she like knew to process those tears out of him. That was interesting as I look back on that little scenario that happened a lot.
Kudos to your mom, like, for because they're you know, having a book that embodying the King's Code, like raising men who aren't allowed to have emotions. And so kudos to your mom for like allowing that, and like, here's some water, you know.
Right.
And it physically actually is a very beautiful release of toxins for your body.
Yeah. Embodying the King's Code is your book, and it's amazing. It's got some really great information. Boys Do Cry is Michelle Catnap's book, and
love her.
Like 11, you know, males to tell their story. And then my husband actually wrote the foreword, and it's his story. And whoa, that was super triggering for him to get out into the world. That was a great process for all of them. It's been an exciting project too. So I love where everything is in the world right now, and people are apt for that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And such a beautiful process for him too, about the being able to receive, right? And the transformation. So it's like walking through those steps that are scary and fearful and hard. And then when you pop out on the other side, having the recognition of like, whoa.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just receiving the invitation, right? And then it was like Skeleton Woman for him, because then he freaked out. Then it was like, it wasn't coming, and it wasn't coming, and it wasn't coming. She sent him some of the chapters, like, get him going, you know. Oh man. And then it got into like me doing some wordsmithing, and that was setting him off. And it was heavy duty, and like he came through, and he was like, he's different in a good way, you know. I love that. And the forming of the self, oh my gosh, I would love it if you just take a moment and talk about like your story of transformation. And I know it's in the book, and it's lovely, just in a snippet, like you were like, does this happen, and now you're like this kind of thing.
Yeah. So one thing that's been really aware recently in my life is people that have come in from like when I was like a younger person, like in high school, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I've seen your light forever. And then, so the forming of the self was actually like the unlayering. So going from high school, getting married at 19 to a really unhealthy relationship, joining the Mormon religion and having like in control and fear really like embedded in. And then just the initiation processing of kind of like waking up stages, and and then like the running away,
the safety of your parents, right?
Yes.
The lies, and and military life too. You were actually a military wife or a brat too.
Yeah. So grew up in the military, and then my ex-spouse was in the military as well.
Got it. Wow. That's a lot. And then getting into two very controlling situations, and then figuring out how to get out of them, right?
Yes.
Not a safe place for you.
No, and I will say it took a few years of I would say a lifetime, right, of unlayering the pieces of like remembering your worth, if you will. And like the reforming of the self happens in those processes. Yeah,
absolutely. So beautiful. Was there something else you wanted to say there?
I already forgot what it was. I was like, and then I'm like, oh, never mind.
This one is funny because when I was like pulling all these little points out from the level of your soul, you got so giggly over this one, like that's so cheesy, and then we find out that's not so cheesy after all, like where you're headed right now, how it's in your life right now. Love is definitely in the air.
Love is in the air.
What's that?
I was just repeating that. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about, where that thought actually comes from in your work too.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of information right now being like generated around like feminine and masculine, which is a beautiful thing. And then on the bottom of the slide, it talks about like a wholeness. So the love is in the air is around like the King's, embodying the King's code is really about seeing different archetypes and allowing those to like mirror within ourselves, like seeing our own greatness, like seeing our own power and stepping into that. Same thing with the Queen's code. And then having those two like merge together for the wholeness. And when it comes to love, I think it actually correlates a lot with like the skeleton woman's analogy as well of, going out into the depths of the fear and having your skeleton like behind you and then speaking in like the heart and all of the beautifulness that comes in the process of unmasking and then the reforming into like the wholeness, or like not the reforming because it's already there, but just like the being in the wholeness.
Yeah, I even see it, this just hit me, in imposter syndrome, because bones are like kind of like the old you, and when you're stepping into something new, like you were confident, but maybe you're doing something new, say in entrepreneurship. Everybody goes through imposter syndrome, if they're doing something new, right? It's all part of it. Yeah. And so that, what am I going for here? The old confident actually you, and the now new scared you, that's kind of the skeleton like bumping along, right? It's about really stepping into your power, getting grounded, and really taking a look at what is the mindset right now, where is it coming from, and what is it I get to let go of, because that old skeleton is part of some of the things to let go of so that you can move forward. And there's a lot of fear in letting go of anything that you think you might have, because there's even a fear of, what might I have to let go of? And it's like, no, everything is in choice. You don't have to let go of certain things. Know your filters. And that's the thing though, if you're not operating at the level of your soul, which works, I say, in onesies, then you don't know what your filters are. You don't know what to filter things through. And I mean that in a positive sense. So if you're like number one, it's kind of like values, but it's not, right? So what's the number one thing you want? What's the number one thing that is, creates the most happiness for you? Even if it's just like right now, then great, use that filter, because that's just going to give you your juice, Go do that when you're feeling like this is getting heavy, or I don't feel like doing this right now. Stop, don't do it. Go do that thing,
Yep. And the loving it all. So like the love is in the air. So I always like envision like a bubble around it all. Like, so it's like loving the ugly pieces, loving the hard pieces, and realizing that there is absolutely choice. Is what you're speaking to about that. Yeah.
Loving the monster in the closet.
Yes.
Because we all go back to that 3-year-old brain, when it comes to just doing new things or whatever. It's not that. There's a monster. Something's going to get me.
And then I also, something else that's coming up is like having a community of like kings and queens too, if you will, that can hold you in. That is so huge. And I think that is actually my biggest transformational process, was like coming in contact when my soul was ready. Right. Same thing with the fisherman. Like he only went out on the kayak in the depths when he was actually ready to. So it was, when my soul was ready, it's like the right people just came in to like aid in the process.
Yeah. We did your book and you were like, thank you for holding my feet to the fire,
If you don't hold me down, I would have been warm.
Keeping them warm, keeping me safe, and keeping me from running.
Right, exactly.
And there's that point where you just want to run, and then there's that point where you just want to throw the monster to the world.
And that's where the magic comes in.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the magic comes in like the sitting in it. And that's can be really tricky sometimes. And when all the emotions come up and we all want to run away, and it's like, but that is right. That's the actual, like the diamond, like that's the diamond part.
Yeah, right. Antonina and Dreama. So I was talking about in the down, you know, and I just got this like, yeah, sitting with the down, sitting in the down or whatever, you know, right? Be with that skeleton piece of it. We don't have to be Pollyanna every day.
No. No. Thank goodness.
Oh my goodness. Right? Well, Pollyanna, though, what was she all about? She was all about just be happy, right? And it's true. What makes you happy? The just be happy is the number one filter to being at the level of your soul, to being able to move forward, to having any kind of energy to move forward, avoiding the burnout, right? She was like in this world of adults going, why are people taking this so seriously?
Yes.
Just be happy. Have fun, right? Like the prisms. Remember she and her little friend were hanging prisms in the window of the crabby old man's house, right?
I remember that, but yeah, that makes sense.
Fun on that.
Bring the sunlight in.
Yeah, bring in the light. And look at all of the beautiful dimensions of the light, right?
Yeah.
That's what they were doing with prisms. Okay, the King's Code. Oh, do tell. You have some amazing stories of transformation that you've done through, you know, with men who called in the King's Code, and, you know, getting women to just really step into their queen roles too. So tell us about the King's Code.
Thanks. So it's I call it an activation, if you will, a process for people. And what I was just saying is, like, when I was ready, my soul brought in the right time, the right people into my life, and it's almost like interesting. Something that's just hitting me is a full circle moment of where I have been that person for people's life, of where they're like, I'm feeling all of this, and I don't know exactly what to do with it. Oh, okay, come here. Just breathe. So the King's Code, if you will, is really initiation into stepping into like your greatness. It's allowing, and one of the processes that I do is allowing space within the body and some DNA activation and restructuring to allow your body to actually accept the newness. And it's not, let me say this a different way. People could like you don't really need it, if you will. Like, it's not like something like your life is going to like process. If you're on a path, it's going to continue to like be that process. But what it does is bring in the ease, the Pollyanna, if you will, the ease into that, to where it can go faster and deeper, and the catapults hit. Yeah,
it's almost like, you know, the book, The Big Leap. Yeah, right. Oh,
love that one.
Yummy. And it's like the Big Leap on steroids, because the Big Leap is like the mindset stuff, and this is more in the like the energy that you're holding that you don't know you're holding in the subconscious, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And what's the difference between like you doing an activation for someone and them doing it for themselves? That's really what you're offering. They're actually doing it for themselves. You're just the guide. It's not like you're this energy worker and you go in and you change it, and then like a week later they're like, what happened? Because like
so this is one thing that I just get to like be comfortable with, is just like talking about how awesome I am.
how let go awesome you are.
Right. It's something that's really tricky for me at times, but it's spending the last like 8 years learning different modalities. So it's Reiki and access consciousness and being trained with shamans and like all kinds of different things, and just innately who I am as well. Like, yeah.
You might want to grab your mic and just pull it out, because you're going soft in tone there, or sound. So, yeah. And so if you actually like it worked with somebody whose fingers even were like stiff, and he was in a great deal of fear, and he ended up bringing in like King Arthur. Well, wow, that's cool, because that one pretty much covers it all, right? If you
right.
the energy of the King Arthur story, you know, the Camelot and all that, right?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay now?
I can now. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, absolutely. It's holding, I don't know, there's different terminology for it. I a lot of times use like holding a space of like a non-judgmental and like just a really loving and safe space for a person to allow their walls to go down. And that's where the transformation happens.
Big time. Yep. You ain't gonna transform unless you're ready.
Yeah, and like my education background is like psychology, social work, so it's like I get all the mind stuff too. So it's like I have the very beginning of my stages was like the mind pieces, which I love. That calls to me sometimes, but in my life and in like my practice, what I found is like shifting things energetically is, I mean, they both work together, right? Yeah. But a lot of times we don't even realize why we're functioning the way that we're functioning. It's right.
And so then you're able to pick up deflection and
the whole time.
None of that flies past you, huh?
I'm just like, yep, I'll sit here and dance with you.
Well, Antonina Andreeva she says like, Linda is the weapon of mass bullshit destruction.
I like that.
That's me
either. I like that.
Yeah, right. Okay, tell us more about the Queen's Code and what that really means to you.
Yeah, so the Queen's Code is like the same type of thing, but for women. And this is where we get to speak about how men and women are different, right? We get to celebrate our differences now. Because before in my history, it's like running all in my masculine energy, like corporate world, like go, produce. Let me burn out. And
that's okay for burnout. And we're only talking energy. We're not talking gender. So if like you're mostly a person who mostly runs feminine energy and you try to do all the masculine stuff, it ain't gonna fly, right? Yes. So we're not really dipping into gender here as much as people might think.
And I love you for clarifying that too. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right. So tell us a little bit more Queen's Code.
I'll tell you, a lot of what I see with women is like not feeling worthy to hold abundance, even though that's what we are actually like. And a lot of cultures, the matriarchal line actually holds the wealth and do a really good job of like stewarding that in a lot of beautiful ways. So some of my clients that I've done a lot of work with was like abundance blocks for females, and stepping into like the queen, if you will, of like just knowing your worth and knowing your stewardship of how you will hold, and like that money is so important for the world as well.
Nice. And that takes me right to Maria Theresa's castle that I got to visit when I was in Austria. And she was actually the first woman, I think she was the only female the whole line had, the whole dynasty had. And she was the one who implemented like Veterans Affairs kind of services for veterans when the soldiers were done fighting and maybe were wounded or whatever. She made sure that they were well taken care of.
Exactly. So if you want like our vets to be taken care of, I love that you brought that in. Like, that's amazing. Yep. Like we're nurturers by nature in a lot of ways. We're all things. Like everyone is all the alls, but yeah.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And you've done some really cool work. I love how it all happens. It all just kind of falls into place for you. And then you look back going, oh, what was that? Oh, that was that. You know?
That's exactly how it happens for me.
Antonina takes people on these trips, and you went to Greece with her, what is it? Retreat gang.
Mm-hmm.
And you passed by a cemetery of veterans.
Yes.
And did some like energetic clearing, and you do that for land as well. Do we have a puppy joining us?
Yeah, that's my Lizzie dog.
And dog? love bringing dog energy into these.
She's such a good one. Like, she is such a great animal. Yeah.
She's a fan of the veterans, I can tell.
She's a fan of veterans, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you've done that thing where, like, okay, so tell us about the cemetery experience. You guys were just like minding your own business, and then tell us.
Yep. This is so wonderful for me, because this is me stepping out of my comfort zone too in a lot of ways. So me and Antonina rented a car in Athens, and we were driving to Matora, and we both are like, oh, beautiful waterfall, beautiful water, blah, blah, blah. And then we like literally like pass something, and we kind of both see it out of the corner of our eye, and we're like, we have to go there. Nice. And it was a cemetery for British soldiers, actually, and was able to just do some clearing work, and just really beautiful feels like all the way around. So the work that I feel like I've done with like the land is something that I love. Is like, it's always like a reciprocalness, and that's actually what I've brought into my life. Like, and it was this reciprocal of like, it's not really work because you're receiving so much. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
And when you were working with the vets, like, what was coming through and what was being released and whatever?
Just, it's funny because it's how I work with life. Like, sometimes I don't even completely can logically comprehend.
Yep. So what were the viscerals you were getting out of the deal yourself?
Yeah, it was just like things being like, just so same as the body, like where we hold certain energies and where it becomes like tight and hard, or like I would venture to say that happens with land as well. So like cemeteries, things are like, there's death, there's sadness, so just bringing a lot of like light energy for allowing the things to not be so heavy.
Yeah. I love it. In Native American traditions, it's, what the heavy stuff, the understanding is it goes down into the core of Mother Earth, because it's chaotic energy, and Mother Earth creates from chaos. So no problem. And then it just goes back up and out to everybody, like in the positive, for lack of better words. So.
Yes. And that's where the reciprocal, like the cycle of like receiving, where it doesn't have to be like, which is all about the skeleton woman too. Like, it doesn't have to be like death and sadness. It becomes a cycle of going down to be mulch, to come back up to provide through like oxygen and rain, and like this cycle of that. Yeah. And in life.
Yeah. Cool. Something else to chew on. It's always so cool to talk to you. Okay. So what is your idea of wholeness? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think I think it was really about like with the masculine and feminine energies, like it's not really, it's not really about there's one and the other. It's like tangling them out to heal those pieces, but we're always in wholeness.
Yeah,
we're always in a wholeness of like path. So it's like, it's not looking at it as one or the other, one's better or wrong or right, or it's that doesn't jive with my soul.
Like we're always in wholeness with the potential to see it, receive it, and live it out, right? And it's really just that remembering, because like we're a soul in a human body, right? And as Antonina says, here to experience the experience. And so getting in touch with that wholeness is about getting that soul, that spirit, whatever you want to say, down into what I say the second chakra, because as a human, that is our, like any personal trainer is going to tell you that's your power center. As a dancer, I know it's true. And so getting your soul down there, and that's why I do that exercise. Like people's like, put your hand out, make your fist, bring it into that area or onto that area, second chakra between your belly button and your pubic bone. 2-3 belly breaths, and just go down deep and blank and just sit there, right? And then start asking, if you can only do one of these 3 things you're trying to decide on, which one is it? And then if you can only do one more, which one is it?
Right.
That gets us out of our head running all these, external problems. I love
Yes.
Kyle Cease video where it's like, I'm in love with a porn star. It's not the title of it though. And it's hysterical. And Kyle Cease goes into deep psychology with this guy. And this guy has quite an awareness of the ego and stuff like that, but it's really good. It's really deep, and he just really shows him how he's created this problem outside of himself. And I'm in love with a porn star, and I don't know if I need to leave her or not. It's not the problem.
No.
It's like you're asking about the problem.
The problem is never the actual problem.
There we go. There we go. Yes. The problem is not the problem, or the actual problem. Yep, yay, big leap. All right. So now embodying the archetypes and the King's Code and Queen's Code, there's individual kings and individual queens, and they have different archetypes, so to speak, that kind of make up who they are and were in history. And so what do you have to say, like archetypes, what do they mean to you?
So I think it's where they can mirror like what's already within us. So in yoga, that's one of the things. It's like what we are able to perceive is actually already in us, and it's not just a yogic like thing, but in life, it's like it's coming into your awarenesses for a specific reason. So what you're able to perceive is actually already in. So embodiment is like the bringing it, like the mirroring effect, seeing it, and then the bringing it in.
Yeah, so you kind of feel like a victim, or when you're looking at somebody like, oh, like this person is just in victim mentality. And then it's like, oh, if you're recognizing that in another, where is victim mentality in you? And that is so classic in coaching, like watching this pattern of like all of a sudden all your clients are having this issue. Whoa, it's time to go, where in my life am I having that issue? It's really creative thinking.
It is. And a couple of things. The other part of that is like the why, like what are you getting off on this? Like, you know what I mean? How are you getting off on it?
Yeah. And then other your addiction behavior.
Yeah. And then the other piece is walking a fine balance of like, when I'm speaking with a person, it's always there's an awareness of like not going into self-blame. Like I never want a person going into self-blame, because it's like we're wanting to love these pieces, right? So it's okay, what are you getting off on it? Like what of creating this in your life, but like untangling it's not like a creating for a bad thing. It's actually like the life is working for you, not against you. So once that piece even gets shifted, which I think the archetypes can help in a lot of ways, of like these kings and queens were like greatness in a lot of ways embodied. So it's like, okay, what pieces are of that in you? So we're not getting into the self-blaming aspect of what psychology and all these fun things can be at times.
Getting some of those confidence pieces out of our archetypes, right?
Yes.
I love it. And then in the story of the handless maiden, we see the maiden archetype, and there's so many women who like, oh, I hate that word. I mean, all they can think of is some virgin that's going to get raped. And it's like, that is not, if you go way, way back in time, the symbol of the maiden was a woman fully connected to her intuition, to her power. What do I need a man for? I got myself. That's why little kids are like boys or girls, like we like boys, right? They're maidens. They're in their full power. What do they need a man for? They got themselves. They got that marriage going on inside of them. They've got the man part and they got the woman part, and they're on it, right? They just get an idea and they put it into action. So their divine masculine, divine feminine are fully married. You know, they are not even just engaged. Nope, they're married. And they're out there just engaging with the world as a fully embodied soul.
Right.
And they say, oh, kids are coming in more connected. It's like, no, we all came in that connected. It's how we're treating them and what we're allowing them to be, say, and do in the world that's keeping them more connected. They're not having as much amnesia. They're not forgetting as much as we did through the filtering of our parents, right? To the point where, oh, you got to be so nice. Now you're vulnerable to your predator uncle or grandpa or father or whatever, you know, say as a girl, and even the guys. Lots of sexual abuse, you know.
Yep.
Okay, so the handless maiden has the maiden. It has the we haven't really talked about this, but Carl Jung's work with the animus is the masculine and the anima is the feminine, and so men tend to, you know, they are fuller in their animus as a general rule, and the woman is fuller in her anima, and the sort of shadow is that if they're not both in yet and like married, like the kids example, excuse me, then you're going to be seeking them outside. And so for a woman, it's seeking daddy, and for a man, it might be like seeking porn. Not that there's something wrong with porn. If you're seeking the anima outside, then you want the beautiful women, the porn, you know, for those reasons, for satisfying those reasons. And I just find that piece, I know that's not part of your work, it's just very fascinating to me how that works. So
I think it is super fascinating. And I think something for me that it's like once connection is found within, like once a lot of these pieces, if you will, the soul pieces have come back into play, it's the connection outside isn't nearly as important. Connection obviously is important, but it's connected being here first, so that way the connection can happen in our lives. So we're not seeking it outside of us.
Finding it within, because it was there. You just forgot, and you let go. Like we leave our bodies all the time. So you know, and then the ego and the pain body tend to take over, and that's like a older sibling with a younger sibling. And if the ego can't get you to listen up, well, then it's going to recruit the pain body to get you to feel something where it can get you to listen up. Scary enough or whatever. Always the New Earth, great read.
I got to read that one still.
And the collective pain body is in there too.
Yes.
Whoa, wait till you hear what happened in a restaurant one time. Somebody's pain body went off and the whole collective pain body went off. You'll see that a lot in church.
Yep, experience. Yes. Yep.
Say no more. Okie doke. So the wobble. Is there anything else like from the handless maiden that you're seeing as archetypes?
Nothing's coming through at the moment.
And living between the worlds, are you human or are you spirit, right?
Yeah. That's a beautiful piece of that story.
Yeah. Okay, so then the old mother can be seen in the king's mother and how she cares for the handless maiden, and she's more initiated to know to lie, right?
I'm not gonna kill this person.
The devil changed the message anyways, you know, so what she was being asked to do wasn't even true. So so she was able to judge the situation intuitively, right?
Yep, that's what Yeah,
I love that one. Anything else on Old Mother? Because that takes me to Crone, and you know, some of the other stories like Hansel and Gretel idea, you know, Witch in the Woods, like this
I think you froze.
Or Vasilisa, right? With the Baba Yaga. Okay, so tell us, the wild bride and groom kind of talked about getting that marriage going down in that second chakra, that fully embodied area, if you will, is the way I speak of it. So the wild bride and groom, what does that mean to you?
I think it's about the merging of the two a lot as well. Like, so accepting, like, you know, I mean, wild gets a bad connotation sometimes, but really, like, women, we create in a cyclical very fashion, and we are very emotional, and so accepting the wild woman within opens up a lot of space within women as well. And then having the groom maybe like come into a fullness and like the accepting and the merging of both of those two beautiful beings together. Is kind of what I was just thinking about with the wild bride and groom.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So, and you have an amazing free gift. You have a quiz, the King and the Queen Codes quiz. That's a mouthful.
I know. Say that fucking fast.
Right? And you guys can find that out at PaulaBurt.com, and the link is also in your email as well. So thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it big time.
I love working on your book with you and helping you even like put this quiz together. It's a very enlightening process that you have to offer as well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're so welcome. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.